The screech of tires and the blinding flash of high beams pierced the dark alleyway. Maya scrambled backward, her heels skidding on the wet asphalt as a black luxury sedan hurtled straight toward her, stopping only inches from her knees. The door flew open. A towering figure stepped out into the pouring rain, his dark tailored coat snapping in the wind, his eyes locked onto her trembling frame with terrifying intensity. If you want to see how a desperate waitress and a ruthless billionaire survive a game of manipulation, love, and high-stakes betrayal, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications and smash the like button so you never miss a single twist in this journey. The rain poured heavily, soaking Maya's simple white dress within seconds. She stared up at Kang Min-Jae, her breath hitching in her throat. The power he radiated was suffocating, but beneath her terror was a burning spark of defiance. "Get in," Min-Jae commanded, his voice cutting through the thunder like a blade. "No," Maya fired back, her voice shaking but resolute. "You told me this was a partnership, Min-Jae. You said we were controlling the narrative together. But the second we stepped outside that courthouse, you threw me to the wolves. Who are all those reporters? Why did you call them?" Min-Jae stepped closer, the heat radiating from him defying the freezing rain. He didn't look angry. He looked entirely unbothered, which only infuriated her more. "If we don't control the media, my uncle and your uncle will tear us apart before the ink on our marriage certificate even dries. Look across the street, Maya." Maya flicked her eyes toward the shadows. Standing under the awning of a closed storefront was her uncle Marcus, his face twisted in absolute rage, holding his phone to his ear. He looked like he wanted to murder them both. "He was going to file the claim at 5 o'clock sharp," Min-Jae said, his low voice dropping an octave. "By 5:20, the news of our marriage broke globally. He can't touch the house now without dealing with my legal team. I saved your home. Now get in the car." Maya swallowed the lump of pride in her throat. She looked back at her uncle, then up at the man who was legally her husband as of 20 minutes ago. Slowly, she stepped into the dry, leather-scented sanctuary of the sedan. The drive to his penthouse was suffocatingly silent. When they finally arrived, Maya stood in the center of the massive, minimalist living room, looking out at the glittering skyline of the city. She felt microscopic. "I can't believe I did this," she murmured, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. "I sold my soul for a piece of property." Min-Jae walked up behind her, his footsteps silent on the plush rug. "You can leave, Maya. If the weight of this is too much, walk out that door. I won't stop you." She spun around, tears finally spilling over her eyelashes. "Leave? After humiliating myself publicly? After the entire world just watched me marry a man whose name I barely know? Do you have any idea what it feels like to have people look at you and immediately assume you're a gold-digging whore who slept her way into a contract?" "I do," Min-Jae said instantly, his face hardening. Maya froze, her breath catching. "What?" "Every single woman I have ever dated, every woman my family tried to force upon me, was accused of exactly that," Min-Jae said, his eyes darkening with a raw, ancient pain he rarely showed. "The corporate world doesn't believe in affection, Maya. They believe in transactions. To them, you are a transaction. To them, I am a transaction. We are the same in their eyes." The absolute vulnerability in his confession hung heavily in the air. Maya stared at him, seeing past the billionaire armor for the very first time. This wasn't just a powerful man playing a game. He was a lonely man fighting a war against his own bloodline. If this heartbreaking realization between Maya and Min-Jae is touching your soul right now, please take a moment to drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to support their story. Min-Jae cleared his throat, breaking the intense spell between them. "Your room is down the hall to the right. My office is separate. The penthouse staff has already been briefed. They will address you as Mrs. Kang. Get some rest. Tomorrow, the real storm begins." "That name sounds completely wrong," she whispered. "You will adjust," he replied coolly, turning his back to her. "And you?" "I adjust quickly," he said, stepping into his office and shutting the door. By the next morning, Maya's worst fears materialized. She sat at the sleek marble kitchen island, scrolling through her phone as the headlines flashed across the screen with brutal velocity. CEO marries unknown waitress. Calculated move or midlife crisis? Inside the sudden nuptials of Kang Min-Jae, Who is the gold digger? The comment sections were a bloodbath. She definitely trapped him, one user wrote. Give it 6 months. She'll take half his money and run, said another. Maya shoved the phone away, burying her face in her hands as a sob escaped her lips. The door to the kitchen clicked open, and Min-Jae walked in, dressed in a flawless navy suit. He took one look at her shaking shoulders, walked over, and gently but firmly took her phone, slipping it into his pocket. Stop reading, he ordered softly. I didn't think it would be this vicious, Maya choked out, looking up at him with red, swollen eyes. They don't even know me. They don't know about my grandmother, or my little brother Toby, or how hard I worked just to keep food on our table. They're making me out to be a monster. It will get worse before it gets quiet, Min-Jae said, his voice surprisingly gentle as he pulled out a chair and sat across from her. When you stand in the spotlight, people will throw stones just to see if you bleed. Don't let them see you bleed, Maya. She looked deep into his dark eyes, searching for a single trace of regret. Do you regret it? Marrying me? No, he said. The answer came so fast, so completely devoid of hesitation, that Maya's heart skipped a beat. It unsettled her deeply because, for a split second, it didn't sound like a businessman talking about an asset. It sounded like a man who meant it. 3 weeks later, the contract was put to its ultimate test. Min-Jae's grandfather, the ruthless chairman of the Kang Corporation, demanded their presence at the annual winter gala. Maya stood in front of the full-length mirror in her bedroom, a breathtaking, deep sapphire silk gown clinging to her curves. Diamonds hung from her ears, provided by Min-Jae's staff, but she felt like an imposter wearing a stolen costume. When she walked into the living room, Min-Jae turned around. For 3 long seconds, the billionaire completely lost his composure. His eyes traced her from head to toe, a sudden heat flaring in his gaze that made Maya's skin tingle. Is it too much? She asked nervously, adjusting her strap. You look spectacular, Min-Jae murmured, offering his arm. Keep your head high tonight. They want to break you. Don't let them. The gala was an exercise in psychological torture. The moment they stepped into the grand ballroom, the music seemed to drop, and hundreds of eyes locked onto them. The whispers were loud enough to hear. Look at her. You can take the girl out of the diner, but you can't take the diner out of the girl. Just another charity case, trying to secure a paycheck. Maya's grip tightened on Min-Jae's arm, her knuckles turning white. He covered her hand with his own, sending a wave of warmth through her body. Breathe, he whispered in her ear. I'm right here. Suddenly, a gorgeous woman in an emerald dress blocked their path, holding a glass of champagne. Her smile was sharp enough to draw blood. Min-Jae, darling, she purred, completely ignoring Maya. Grandfather is looking for you in the VIP lounge. Min-Jae's expression instantly turned to ice. Soo-jin, I didn't know you were on the guest list. Soo-jin finally turned her gaze to Maya, her eyes dripping with condescension. I'm Soo-jin. Min-Jae and I were engaged last year. Before he decided to move on so diversely, the insult hung heavily in the air. Maya felt the urge to shrink, to run away and hide in the kitchen where she belonged. But then she remembered her grandmother's fierce spirit. She remembered Toby's sweet smile. She wasn't just representing herself, she was fighting for her family. Maya let go of Min-Jae's arm, stepped forward, and looked Soo-jin dead in the eye, flashing a dazzling, confident smile. I'm surprised too, Soo-jin. But then again, Min-Jae always did tell me he has an acquired taste for authenticity. It must be exhausting holding onto a past that clearly didn't want you. Soo-jin's jaw dropped, her face flushing crimson. Min-Jae let out a low, dark chuckle, his arm instantly sliding around Maya's waist, pulling her flush against his side. We'll excuse ourselves now, Soo-jin. My wife needs a drink. As they walked away, Min-Jae leaned down, his lips brushing against the shell of her ear. You handled that brilliantly. I've never seen Soo-jin speechless. I've handled unruly customers at the restaurant for 5 years, Maya whispered back, a thrill of adrenaline racing through her veins. A spoiled socialite is nothing. Their dynamic shifted entirely after that night. The walls were crumbling. Later that week, around 3 in the morning, Maya walked past Min-Jae's study and noticed the door slightly ajar. She peered inside and saw him slumped over his desk, surrounded by mountains of financial paperwork, fast asleep. He looked exhausted, lines of stress etched deeply into his handsome face. Maya quietly walked in, holding a warm blanket. She gently draped it over his broad shoulders. The moment the fabric touched him, Min-Jae bolted awake, his hand instantly shooting out and grabbing her wrist in a vice grip. His eyes were wild, defensive, the look of a man who had spent his entire life waiting for a knife to the back. When he realized it was Maya, his grip softened, but he didn't let go. He looked up at her, his eyes raw and completely unguarded. "Don't," he whispered, his voice raspy from sleep. "Don't what?" Maya asked softly, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Don't look at me like that, Maya." "Like what?" "Like I'm human. Like I'm someone who deserves to be taken care of," he choked out, his gaze locking onto her lips. "I am a machine built to run an empire. If you make me soft, they will destroy me." Maya felt a profound ache in her chest. Slowly, she reached out her free hand and gently cupped his jaw, her thumb brushing against his cheekbone. "You are human, Min-Jae, and everyone deserves to be taken care of." He pulled her down into his lap, his hands gripping her waist as if she were an anchor in a raging storm. For a long, breathless moment, they just held each other in the quiet dark of the night, the contract entirely forgotten. But the peace didn't last. The next morning, the world shattered. Maya woke up to her phone exploding with notifications. She sprinted into the living room, where Min-Jae was already standing, staring at a massive television screen. Exclusive, the Kang Corp marriage fraud exposed. On the screen were high-resolution images of their exact marriage contract. Every single clause was displayed for the world to see. Section 4. No physical obligations. Section 7. Separation of assets. Section 12. Absolute termination of marriage after 12 months with a guaranteed payout. Maya felt the air leave her lungs. The room began to spin. "You said it was confidential," she whispered, her voice cracking with an agonizing betrayal. "You swore to me no one would see this." Min-Jae turned around, his face pale, his jaw clenched so tightly a vein throbbed in his temple. "Someone hacked the secure server in my legal department. Maya, listen to me. I am already tracing the leak. I am handling it. Handling it." Maya screamed, the tears blinding her now. "They are calling me a hired escort on live television. They are saying I leased my body and my name for a year to save a piece of property. My brother is going to see this. My neighbors, my friends. Everyone looks at me and sees a fraud. You knew this was an arrangement from the beginning." Min-Jae shouted back, his own desperation finally breaking through his icy exterior. "You knew the terms." "Yes, I knew it was a contract, but I didn't think you would expose my dignity to the entire world." Maya sobbed, her chest heaving as she ran to her room and began throwing her clothes into a duffel bag. This is the absolute turning point of their lives. If you are sitting on the edge of your seat right now, praying for Maya and Min-Jae to survive this absolute nightmare, please slam that like button, leave a comment with your predictions, and subscribe to become a permanent part of our storytelling community. Min-Jae stood in her doorway, watching her pack with an expression of sheer panic. "Where are you going? If you leave right now, the press will destroy you completely. Stay here where I can protect you." "Protect me," Maya said, stopping to look at him, her face stained with tears of deep, agonizing heartbreak. "You don't protect people, Min-Jae. You manage assets. I asked for a husband to help me save my home, not a cold-blooded corporate strategy. For what it's worth, I actually started to believe you cared. I almost believed it was real." She zipped her bag, pushed past him, and walked out of the penthouse, the heavy double doors slamming shut behind her. Min-Jae stood frozen in the empty hallway, the crushing weight of total silence falling over him. For the first time in his life, he had all the wealth in the world, and absolutely nothing that mattered. The next morning, the Kang Corporation Board of Directors' room was a courtroom. 12 elderly billionaires sat around a massive mahogany table, glaring at Min-Jae. At the head of the table sat his grandfather, Chairman Kang, looking utterly disappointed. "You have humiliated this family, Min-Jae," the chairman said, his voice cold as ice. "The contract is public. The stock price is plummeting. You will sign the annulment papers immediately, issue a public apology stating the girl manipulated you, and we will restore order." Min-Jae looked at the annulment papers sitting in front of him. He looked at the faces of the greedy men who had raised him to be a heartless machine. Then he thought of Maya. He thought of her laugh, her fierce bravery at the gala, and the warmth of her hand on his face. Slowly, Min-Jae stood up, pushing the papers away. I will make a public statement today, he announced, his voice echoing with absolute authority. But it will not be the one you want. An hour later, Min-Jae stood before a wall of hundreds of flashing cameras and shouting reporters in the press room. He adjusted the microphone, his expression entirely at peace. My marriage to Maya Johnson began as a legal contract, Min-Jae said clearly into the microphone. A collective gasp rippled through the press corps. It was an arrangement born out of mutual necessity. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being a contract. He reached into his breast pocket, pulled out his original copy of the marriage agreement, and, right in front of the live television cameras, tore it completely in half. I am not divorcing my wife, Min-Jae declared, staring directly into the main camera lens, hoping she was watching. Because I love her. She taught me what it means to be a human being again. And if choosing my wife costs me my position as CEO of this corporation, then I resign, effective immediately. He stepped away from the podium, leaving behind a room full of absolute chaos, and walked out into the pouring rain. 30 minutes later, a heavy thunderstorm was rattling the windows of the small, yellow house with the cracked kitchen tiles. Maya sat on the old couch, holding a mug of tea, staring blankly at the floor. Suddenly, a violent knock pounded on the front door. She opened it, and her breath completely left her body. Min-Jae stood on her porch, soaked to the bone, his expensive suit ruined, his hair plastered to his forehead. He was breathing heavily, his chest heaving. What are you doing here? Maya whispered, gripping the edge of the door. Go back to your empire, Min-Jae. I don't have an empire anymore, he said, stepping closer, the rain dripping from his chin. I gave it up. Maya's eyes widened in shock. What do you mean? I stood in front of the entire world and told them the truth, Min-Jae said, his voice trembling with a raw emotion he could no longer contain. I told them it started as a contract, but that I tore it up. I resigned, Maya. My grandfather disowned me. I have nothing left. Why would you do something so stupid? She cried, tears mixing with the rain on her face. You loved that company. Because I realized the company couldn't love me back. Min-Jae shouted over the roar of the thunder. He reached out, grabbing her hands, his palms burning hot against her cold skin. I married you to solve a corporate problem, Maya. But I stayed because you made me feel alive. You see people for who they really are. I'm not here to fix this with money or lawyers. I'm here because I am choosing you, even if it means I lose everything else in this world. Maya searched his face, looking for any sign of a ruse, any sign of a strategy. All she found was the terrifying, beautiful vulnerability of a man completely in love. You are an absolute idiot, she sobbed, a broken laugh escaping her lips. Probably, he murmured, a soft smile breaking through his exhaustion. You hurt me so bad, Min-Jae. You made me feel so small. I know, and I will spend every single day of the rest of my life making that right. No more contracts, Maya. No more exit clauses. Just me. Just you. Maya let out a long breath, the final walls around her heart completely crumbling away. Okay, she whispered. Okay, he asked, as if he couldn't believe his ears. Okay. Min-Jae didn't waste another second. He wrapped his powerful arms around her waist, lifting her off her feet as he pulled her into a passionate, desperate kiss right there in the pouring rain. It wasn't strategic. It wasn't for the cameras. It was real, pure, and unbreakable. 6 months later, the small yellow house was filled with the delicious aroma of sizzling burgers and fresh spices. The backyard was alive with laughter as Maya's little brother Toby ran around, kicking a soccer ball. Min-Jae stood awkwardly by the grill, wearing a casual apron over a plain t-shirt, looking completely out of his depth as smoke billowed into his face. Maya walked up behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist and leaning her head against his back. You're burning the burgers, Mr. Billionaire, she teased, looking up at him with a grin. I can manage a multi-billion-dollar portfolio, but this mechanism defies logic, Min-Jae complained, though his eyes were dancing with happiness as he looked down at her. Some skills just take time to learn, Maya said softly, kissing his shoulder. So does love. Min-Jae turned around in her arms, setting the spatula down and wrapping his hands gently around her waist. He looked deep into her eyes, his expression overflowing with a profound tenderness. No, my beautiful wife. Love doesn't take time. Maya raised an eyebrow playfully. Oh, really? Then what does it take? Min-Jae leaned down, brushing his lips softly against hers. It takes courage. We want to thank you so much for watching Maya and Min-Jae's journey from the very beginning to this beautiful end. This story reminds us all that true wealth isn't found in a corporate bank account, but in the courage to let your walls down and choose love over pride. If this story touched your heart today, please hit that subscribe button. Give this video a huge thumbs up and comment down below. Would you risk everything you own for the person you love? Let us know, and we will see you in the next story.